All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to talk about what if I have an iPhone and a Windows PC, which is a very common combination. Obviously, iPhones are very popular, and obviously, Windows operating system is very popular. So the two often end up being used together. So we're going to talk about how to manage that. So first of all, we're going to look at the options that we have. And we're going to talk about using the cloud because generally that's what we're talking about when we have an iPhone is taking photos, for example, and sending them to iCloud. And then we're going to look at the solutions. I think the way I normally do things, if y'all are familiar with my presentation, I always have the one up front that's not particularly useful, but mildly entertaining. Feel free to sleep through that section if you want. It's totally optional. But the informative, hopefully useful section, wake up for that one. We may have a quiz at the end. So for those of you who haven't seen my little spiel about who I am, I actually did grow up with computers, even though I'm, of this generation. This was my first computer in early 1960s. I grew up in a small town in Wyoming, population 6,000. And somehow my high school ended up with an IBM 1620, which wasn't that old of a computer then. And I fell in love with it. And all it had was this little fellow typewriter here. And we had a reader punch for punch cards. And this thing had a processor clock speed of 2 megahertz. And if you're familiar with processor clock speeds, your current iPhone is about 2,000 times faster than this computer, which took a very large room. It was a character-based system. So the memory size was 20,000 characters or digits, which is about 5 kilobytes now. Comparing that to the iPhone, your iPhone has 2.5 million times the memory that this thing had back in the early 60s. Nonetheless, I fell in love with computers. So I did grow up with computers. And if you know me, I'm a Mac guy at heart, but I can boot Windows if I must. So I always also like to have a little, hey, this presentation is for you, so you know if you're here, especially if you have an iPhone and a Mac or Windows PC and you want them to talk to each other. Or you're considering a new phone or a new computer, or you just want to see some of the cool things you can do between your phone, your iPhone, and your Windows PC. So I assume pretty much everyone here does have a Windows PC, right? I know Demi does. William, you do. Evie does. So, and I don't know Peggy. And what happened to our friend? Well, we had somebody else here for a while ago. Anyway, so
I have,
that's what we're gonna. Oh, hi Peggy.
I have both.
And you have a PC, right?
Yes, and a MacBook.
Oh,
Yeah.
bless your heart. All right. So let's look at the different options we have. And this is, I like to say, this is what we want, is we want our iPhone or our iPad to, as they say in marketing, I used to be a marketing guy, seamlessly share with our desktop or our laptop, even if it's a Windows PC. We'd like to be able to share contacts and calendars, and we'd like to have password autofill work on both devices and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, to use a marketing term, seamless. But what we have, if we don't have a Mac, is we have an Apple device, we have a Microsoft operating system. That's the software that runs on your computer, and it's developed and maintained by Microsoft. And then we have what we call commodity hardware. Dell, HP, Acer, all those people make the hardware that runs Windows. The problem we have is these guys don't really like to talk to each other. And you may have noticed that if you take, for example, a lot of photos on your iPhone and want them to appear on your HP desktop, it's a chore. And what we're going to do is talk about how to make that a little easier. So how will you make it work? Well, obviously, if it's a Mac, it just works. And I'm sorry I keep saying that. And I'll try to tone it down some, but we are talking about Windows PCs here. And we're going to look at some options that will make it just work. So the first option, and this is specifically or especially for photos, and that is to plug your phone into your computer and transfer the photos that way. There's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of a pain because it takes a wire, and Daryl and I were talking, we have mountains of wires around here, and you never have the right one when you need it. So we're not really going to talk about that. If you do want to figure out how to do this and you're not doing it right now, just come see us. The option two is to switch everything to Google. Google has a whole ecosystem. On your iPhone, you can get a Google Photos app. And on your PC, you can access Google. You have a Google application, and you can also go to google.com or photos.google.com. And it works, but it kind of defeats the reason to have an iPhone. And one of the main reasons to have an iPhone is to use iCloud for synchronizing all of your stuff. Then we're going to use the 3 and 3.5 options. The first one is to look at an app called iCloud for Windows. And that's really going to be the core of this. What we're going to talk about for the remaining time pretty much is this app called iCloud for Windows. Although option 3.5, which is to access iCloud via your browser, is a very good solution, and it's a very simple solution. I probably got 1 or 2 slides on that, and then we're going to talk more about this iCloud for Windows apps. So those are really the main options that you have if you want to synchronize things between your iPhone and your Windows PC. So mainly we're going to use a cloud-based option. So let's talk about what this cloud thing is. So this is you at your computer, right? And when you save a file or a document or a photo, well, everything is a file. It's written onto the hard drive of your computer or your laptop or whatever. And when you have a cloud service enabled, like OneDrive or iCloud or Dropbox, there's a special program that's running on your computer that copies the file up to the cloud, like you can see here. So as I make changes to this file, or I update files or create files, they get loaded on my hard drive. The cloud service copies them up to the cloud. So as I mentioned, as you make changes, those changes are copied to the cloud. So now it's no matter where you go, you can get a copy of those same files via communication to the cloud. As long as you have that cloud service enabled on your device, and for example, it's always enabled on your, well, you can turn it off, but by default, it's enabled on your iPhone, and we're going to set it up so that it's enabled on your Windows PC. So, and the other way around, of course, and this is the common situation. If I create a file or take a photo on my portable device, it gets uploaded to the cloud, and then it's available, in this case, on my desktop. So you can see that that's the case of, hey, I take a photo with my iPhone, and in a few seconds, it's available on my desktop. So that's what the cloud thing is. I always say, is that a good thing, right? So obviously, the most often situation is through photos, but we can be talking about documents or changes to passwords or making bookmarks with a browser. Those kinds of things you want to synchronize between your devices. A kind of a corollary or a good side effect of this is that your data and your photos are backed up into the cloud in case your device dies. And the iPhone is a perfect example. If you lose your iPhone or it gets run over, you can restore it back to you can get a new one and restore that new one back exactly as your old one was because everything is backed up in the cloud. And I mentioned autofill passwords across devices. That's probably the second most common thing, and synchronizing your bookmarks. And the other thing that you can do when you put things in the cloud is you can share that information with others. Obviously, you have to have give them permission to be able to see things like photos, but because it's in the cloud, it can be shared. So the bottom line is, yes, the cloud is a good thing. And by the way, if anybody has any questions, just wave at me or uh, raise your hand or whatever. I'm kind of watching the what's going on here. Oh, I also have a handout that um, I can share. Does everybody have a copy of this handout? Yes, no?
We didn't send it out, Bobski.
Oh,
But I
okay.
will post it up on our website when you send it to me.
Okay. I can put it in the I can put it in the chat window. Let me do that real quick while we're here. I should have thought of that right off. So file. Hmm, hang on, we'll get there real quick. All right. So it's in the chat window. And as Daryl mentioned, it will be on our website, the Longmont SCTC website, when we get done here. All right, so wrapping up, what's this cloud thing? I always like to say it's like having a magical disk drive in the sky, right? It keeps things, and we can talk about what things are, synchronized, protected, and shareable. So this is the image that I like to use. Taking a picture on your phone, goes to the cloud, now it's available on your desktop. So let's look at the cloud-based solutions for synchronizing between our iPhone and our Windows PC. We talked about Google everything. Um, I'm going to um, I'm going to say this is a topic for another day. What I mean by that is if you do want to use Google for everything, um, Daryl, can you, oh, there we go. If you do want to use Google for everything, come see us and we'll set it up. The biggest thing that you need to do is turn off iCloud storage of your photos. And the reason for that is if you don't, it is on by default. And if you don't turn that off, you'll end up storing your photos in two different places and even ultimately having to pay for cloud storage to multiple vendors, i.e. Google and Apple. So it works fine. It doesn't, the Apple Photos app is one of the best apps ever developed. And so you can't use that, obviously, but it does work for synchronizing. The option 3.5, this is an example if let's see if I got, if you go to iCloud.com on your PC, so open your favorite browser like Edge or Chrome and go to iCloud.com and log in with your Apple ID, you will see a splash page that looks something like this. And this will take you to your iCloud mail. It'll synchronize your calendar and your contacts, especially your photos. Now, keep in mind, this is all through your browser, but you have access to everything iCloud. It's a completely reasonable way to do this, and it's really simple. You just go to iCloud.com. So it doesn't require any extra software on your PC. It's if you just need to access a few things or some photos real quick, that's a perfect way to do it. But the third thing, which is what we're going to talk about, is this app called iCloud for Windows. And what it attempts to do is make the iCloud experience that you have with Macs come to your Windows PC. And you can synchronize all these different things. So it ends up looking like this. We have a Windows PC now connected to iCloud. So the first thing you do is open the Microsoft Store, search for iCloud, and in the store, make sure the developer is Apple. A little word, a little anti-scam word here. If often these scammers will try to put applications into the Microsoft Store or even the Apple Store that look like what you want, but they aren't what you want. So you need to make sure that the developer is Apple. Now, I've done this several times in the past couple of days, and this one comes to the top. So you're pretty safe on this. Nobody's tried to put a scam version of it in there, but just make sure the developer, and this applies to any time you're acquiring software through the Microsoft Store. Make sure that it's the developer that you think it is. And then install the iCloud app, and you just click this button and it will install it. So then once you have it installed and you run it, a splash screen like this will come up, and you click on Get Started. And I'm going back here. And once you click on Get Started, it will ask you for your Apple ID. So have that handy. Now, your Apple ID, sometimes called your iCloud sign-on, is on your phone in the settings at the very top is your Apple account. And that will have your Apple password, your Apple account user ID and password there. So you can see here, tap on your name and you'll be able to see what it is. Now, it does require two-factor authentication. When you click the sign in here, it will come up on your phone and say, hey, someone is trying to log in on this device, and it'll be your Windows device. Is it okay? And you say yes, and then it will come up with a 6-digit code, and this sign-in process will require that 6-digit code. Well, once you get past that, it comes up with a four-step process to set up the synchronization. The very first one is to synchronize your photos. And you can see here, it says step 1 of 4. If you click on synchronize your photos, actually, let me see if I can share. Right, so I don't know if you all can see that. This is my Windows PC. And you can see it's exactly that point. I'm installing the iCloud for Windows. And if you click on sync photos, it will say, oh, okay, we need to start syncing photos. And it will go on to step 2 of 4. So it synchronizes all your iCloud photos to your pictures folder. And we're going to talk more about that here in a moment. The steps 2, 3, and 4 of 4 are for your iCloud files, which is called iCloud Drive, to your File Explorer. The third one is sync your passwords, and the fourth one is to sync browser bookmarks. I think I have, yeah, I went back here. So if you check on iCloud Drive, it will set up files. It will set up file sharing between your phone and your PC. Now, not very many people use that. We're going to talk more about that in a second here. Here it is. Whoops. Darn it. Yeah. So let's look at, I'm going to go back here. There's 4 steps. There's photos, iCloud Drive, passwords and keychains, and bookmarks. Okay. So let's look at photos first. This is the screen that you'll see on your PC. And if you turn on iCloud Photos, it will come up with this settings screen for your photos. And probably the most important thing to remember is where your photos are going to be stored. And by default, they're stored in your photos, in your pictures folder on your PC. Now, down here, you can see, you can change that. You can put it somewhere else. But by default, it's stored in your picture folders. And you can enable shared albums. That's right here if you turn that on. So as soon as you click on that, it will start syncing photos. And you can see here, that I clicked on it, and while it was synchronizing, I took this screen snap, and I have 1,400 photos that I want synchronized. These photos are ostensibly on my Apple devices, like my iPhone, and now they will be available on my PC. Oops, let's go back. And we're going to talk more about where these get stored and how to use them here in a moment. But that's the first few steps. Once you start syncing, then your photos are available on your PC. And if you take a picture on your iPhone, it will be synchronized onto your PC. So that's the main big step. We're going to come back to that here in a moment. So let's look at the next thing, which is iCloud Drive here. What? Oh, sorry, I added a slide here. One other note here. If you're running OneDrive, do you know if you're running OneDrive, everybody? William's shaking his head, right? Demi, do you know if you're running OneDrive? Yeah, you are. Okay. OneDrive has a habit of confusing things. And if OneDrive is on, your pictures will be stored in a different place than your pictures folder that OneDrive is managing. And that's because OneDrive moves your pictures folder. If you are running OneDrive, you probably want to turn off OneDrive sync. And you can do that through the control panel. I can show you that here in a moment, how to do that. And what that'll do is if OneDrive's not managing your photos, then it happily keeps everything in the right place. And since you're storing these on iCloud, they're still backed up in a cloud service. I forgot about this. I discovered this yesterday because on one of my PCs, I was running OneDrive and I couldn't find the photos. And I was like, wait, what happened? Well, it turns out OneDrive confuses things. All right, so let's look at the second thing here, which is iCloud Drive. And if you click on that, it will bring up a settings panel, which I don't think we're going to look at. I would recommend not turning this on. And the reason is almost nobody, including myself, shares actual files between an iPhone and a PC. You have to go way out of your ways to access files on a iPhone. And between that and the fact that you rarely use actual files on an iPhone, it's just not a practical thing to do. I would recommend not enabling it. It works, and I tried it, but it's really circuitous. So I recommend turning that off. Oh, here's the window that comes up, and you can see, select the location where your files will be synced. And again, if you're running OneDrive, this can get muddled. So be careful of that. Probably the next most useful thing is synchronizing passwords and what iPhone used to call keychain, but now they call it just passwords. What you have to do here, and what we mean by this is if I go to wellsfargo.com on my phone and I enter my password or it autofills, I would like for that password to autofill on my PC. So if I'm in Chrome or Edge and I go to wellsfargo.com, it will know my username and password because it's synchronized with my phone. That's a very useful thing to have. It does install a separate app called iCloud Passwords. That's what this shows right down here. And of course, you have to in order to access it, you have to log into your device, that being your PC or your iPhone, just for security. We don't want to willy-nilly splatter your passwords, username and passwords around. These are all encrypted and stored in the cloud so that they can be synchronized. And it goes without saying, it syncs the passwords with your Apple account. Do keep in mind that it does add an extension to your browser. Bookmarks is probably the second most useful thing, third, I guess, if you're counting photos. And you can see here, It also installs an extension on your browser. It only works with Edge or Chrome, by the way. If you use Firefox, for example, you won't be able to do this synchronization because this extension is only available for Edge or Chrome. And what it does is it synchronizes all of your browser bookmarks. So if I'm on my Windows PC and I'm running Chrome and I go to apple.com and I bookmark it, that bookmark is now available on my iPhone running Safari. If you have bookmarks on both of them, it will merge the bookmarks once it's installed. And you can see here, it automatically installs the extension. I already had it installed, so it would ask to remove it, but it will do that for you. So you don't have to go to the trouble of figuring out where the extension is and how to install it. It does it for you. All right, the thing that changed since I've last given this presentation was syncing contacts and calendars. There used to be step 5 of the installation process was, hey, set up synchronization between contacts and calendars. Now, it brings up a screen. I should have screen snapped it here, that basically takes you to Microsoft Office 365 subscription page. And it requires you to sign up for a 365 subscription, which is a minimum of $99 a year, in order to get the new Outlook. And the new Outlook has extensions in it for managing contacts and calendars. My personal opinion is you have to want to synchronize your calendars and contacts pretty badly to go through this. Now, if you already have Office 365 and you're already using Outlook, you should be in good shape. You just go through the steps that the application provides, and we can look at those if you want to and get done here. And it will install the extension in Outlook, and from then on, it will merge your calendars and your contacts. And when we say calendars, we're talking about your iCloud calendars, which are the calendars that you most frequently use on your iPhone. Unless you're using Google calendars on your iPhone, you are by default using iCloud calendars, and that's what gets synchronized here. Ditto with contacts. This means if you're using the Contacts app and the Calendars app on your iPhone, not the Google apps, but the native apps that come with your iPhone, those are the ones that will be synchronized. All right, so let's go back here. So does all this make sense? Is everybody okay with this? Think you might want to try it? It's pretty straightforward up until you get to this point. And if you get to this point and you want to do this, come see me because we'll help you do it. But certainly synchronizing photos is the easiest part of this and the most useful part of it. Okay. So on an aside here, and you may already know this, about 6 months ago, Microsoft, and maybe further back than that, Microsoft came out with a Photos app. And the Photos app knows about iCloud, which is a great thing. So, a second, I got to move things here. All right. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit here. So I call it the new Windows Photos app, and it's in the App Store. If you go to the Microsoft Store and you search for Photos, make sure that you find the one that's the author is Microsoft, and make sure they're the developer, and then install it as you would any Microsoft app. And what happens is it will come up with this screen of settings that you have, and there's one of the settings that says Show iCloud Photos. And if you turn that on, all of a sudden you can see your iCloud photos that are being synchronized by virtue of the iCloud for Windows app. You can see those in the Photos app. You can see here, this is the main screen of that Photos app. This is on Windows. I'm running Windows here. And you can see right here is iCloud Photos. And there's a little icon here that says, hey, this came from iCloud Photos. Just like that. So you know that these are ones that are being shared from your iCloud account. Now, here's another note. Let's see if. So all of your photos are available that are in iCloud, but only the full-size originals are saved on the cloud. And the reason for that is, and you're on your phone, it's by default the same way. There's just a little thumbnail that's saved on your phone. For example, I have something on the order of 44,000 photos in my iCloud library. Well, that library would not fit on my 256 gigabyte iPhone. So what they do is they have a thing called optimize storage. And if you have a question about that, you can go to settings, go to your iCloud settings, and you can see there's a little tick mark that says optimize. That's on by default. If you don't have that on, it will try to download the original, the full resolution originals onto your device. Same with your PC. These are just thumbnails. If I click on one and I say, hey, I want to edit it, it will download it immediately and make it available to me, the full resolution photo. But if you just say, hey, turn this on, I want to see this, it populates the Photos app with these thumbnails, and then you can manipulate them as if you would any other photos in your Photos app. Again, I'm on the PC here. This is the Photos app. If I click Info, it shows me the metadata that came from the photo that's in the iCloud. And it has all of the exchangeable image file format, EXIF, information like what device took this photo, what the settings were when the photo was taken, was the flash on, what resolution is it? All of that information is carried over from the photo that's on your phone, goes to iCloud with this information, comes down to the Photos app with this information. That's a good thing, okay? You can also edit photos. It has some basic editing tools. Again, I'm using the Photos app on my Windows device on my PC, and I can change things like brightness, exposure, and so on. So this app is a little more than just organization. It also helps you edit the photos if you want. So you end up with more or less a seamless way of communicating and synchronizing between your Apple devices, your Microsoft software, and your commodity hardware. And I have to make this disclaimer here, the calendars and contacts are only if you have the new Outlook app running on your Windows PC. Wow, I went through this in record time. And we can go to my PC and show you some of this. So closing thoughts, iCloud for Windows is an app. You get it at the Microsoft Store. It's a safe and easy way to sync some things between your phone, specifically photos, and your Windows PC. But there's always going to iCloud.com. You can always do that. And for some, if you only occasionally need to do this and you're not concerned about real-time synchronization, this is a fine way to do it. Don't mix Google Photos and iCloud Photos. If you do, you'll end up paying for both services and you'll end up with duplicate photos all over the place. It's really confusing. And Daryl and I both have had to unwind numerous people from this situation. So if you do have this situation, give us a holler. We could help you out with that. Now, if you have an Android phone, you probably wouldn't be here, but if you do, you're almost certainly better off with Google applications throughout because Google is native to an Android phone and the ecosystem works fine with a Windows PC. If you have OneDrive turned on or using iCloud for Windows app, come see us. And because there are different situations depending on how OneDrive has been configured, and it's OneDrive is a challenge. Let me just put it that way. Do I have something else here? Nope, that's it. Do we have any other any questions? Make sense? Are you going to give it a try? I'm going to stop recording, I think.
Well, friends, that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed this video today. Hey, before you go, if you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to know when the latest SCTC video comes out, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And if you have any ideas or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.